You know, I think I just carry that and.
Okay, it's not my last number.
Yeah, I don't think we need a presentation.
Okay.
Not like this journey out here.
Oh, right. Yes. I went to a lot of schools.
Are we? Welcome to the Monday, August 8th, Orono City Council meeting. All council members are present except Councilmember Printup is out of town today and Councilmember Cosby is fallen ill. We always start the meeting with a pledge of allegiance, so I invite you to join and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks for that. Next on the list is the approval of the agenda, which we also do the consent agenda at the same time. And on the consent agenda, we just approve all those items in one vote. And I'll go through the consent agenda before we vote on it. So if there is something you want off the consent agenda, just raise your hand. We'd love to talk about it. Who'd like to take a stab at consent tonight?
I can do good. I would keep
Can't get it, sorry.
1 through 9, and add number 11, and then the applicant has deleted number 10, so we'll take 10 off the community development report, and then add 11 onto the consent.
George? Okay, so what we have in consent tonight is number 1, the city council meeting minutes of July 25th. Number 2, claims and bills. Number 3, approval of rental licenses. Number 4, appointment of community development director, Laura Polkton. Congratulations, Laura. Number 5, appointment of city planner, Natalie Nye. Number 6, amend fee schedule, convenience fee. Number 7, backup generator replacement for lift number 14, Orono Beach. Number 8, water main replacement project 22-23 award. Number 9, LA 22-34 concept landscaping on behalf of Deborah Jordan, 1350 West Point Circle, variance resolution number 7279. Number 11, LA 22-35 Alexander Design Group on behalf of Adrian and Lisa Fiola, 2659 Casco Point Road, variance is resolution number 7281, and number 10 has been pulled. Is there any of those consent items anybody like taking off consent tonight? You seeing no objections? I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. You know that passes 3-0. Okay, next on our list is our presentation for our 2021 audit.
Mayor, members of council, thank you so much for your time. I'm going to go through the results of the 2021 financial statement audit with you. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them as they come up. Otherwise, at the end, we can go through anything that you have to dive deeper into. So I'm going to start by giving you an overview of the audit results. So we did provide a clean opinion on the financial statements consistent with what you have received in the past. And essentially that means that we were able to retain all of our audit evidence. We did not run into any significant issues during the audit, and everything was in good order as far as internal control processes. There is one finding that we do have in our audit report this year that I want to share with you. So we had to record a material audit adjustment related to an interfund loan that was passed previously in a TIF district. Some of those TIF district transactions can be very complex in nature and do have a higher risk associated with them for being reported by financial statements. It was brought to our attention during the audit by the finance staff that it was not recorded back in 2017. And so that was something that did get recorded after that year, obviously we're in 2022 now. And so that is counted as material audit adjustment. But it was very limited in nature, and we don't have any concerns about it affecting the other operations of the city, but something that does need to be disclosed as material audit adjustment. Other than that, we did not have any audit findings to discuss. From a legal compliance aspect, things were very clean as well. No legal compliance concerns to share with you. And then if we can jump to page 4 of the presentation, I'll go over the general fund results. And so the general fund is the main operating fund of the city, and it's helpful to see what has been the trend of fund balance over the last 5 years. And here you can see your fund balance has been fairly consistent. Ended this year about 46.3%, and that was after a transfer out to support some capital fund reserves as well. And so it's a very good year for the general fund balance. And then on the next slide is a general fund budget to actual, so you can see how things ended up compared to what you had planned for the year. So your revenues were significantly over budget. This is something that we've seen in a lot of cities in this area. A lot of the development that is occurring is not originally budgeted for, and so that is one of the main budget variances. There are also some grants received that were not budgeted for as well, and then also some golf revenues that were over budget too. And then expenditures were fairly close to budget there. And then you can see the transfer out to some capital reserve funds to support some future capital purchases, just to keep that general fund balance at a good operating level. On the next slide, we can look at some of the general fund revenues. So on this chart, you can see the revenues by type. It tells you where do the funds come from to support your general fund operations, mostly from taxes there, consistent with what you would expect. That total other category, that includes like golf charges for services, development-related administrative costs, and some other miscellaneous things. So this is fairly consistent with what we've seen in other cities. And then next we have general fund expenditures by type, showing you the different programs that you have. And so general government would be a lot of your administrative costs, public safety. There you can see that's your largest program, again consistent with what we see in other cities, so nothing surprising here. That other category is mostly your Parks and Rec department. And then next we go into some of the other fund types. And so along with the general fund, you have many other funds that have things set aside for specific purposes, or that will be bringing in funds to pay for different types of costs. I want to point out a couple on here that have some large swings this year. The park fund, you can see that has a large negative balance. There's been a lot of park projects recently, and they're expected to be funded with future park dedication fees. So nothing to be all too concerned about, but make sure that you're aware that that is a negative balance, and funding mechanisms are expected to go in there. And then for the senior housing TIF fund and the HRA general fund, that's where that prior period adjustment that I spoke about earlier was recorded. So you saw some large swings due to recording some 2017 activity there. And then next is a look at your capital project funds. And so a couple to point out in your capital project fund balance is on the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry, debt service first. So debt service here, your debt service requirements over the next 10 years, your principal and interest requirements and payments there. In 2021, there was a large prepayment of a bond that's expected to be covered with some future revenue sources as well. The bond was paid off early to save on some future interest costs. And there was also one bond issued in 2021. And then next, the capital project funds. And so here you can see some of the resources that you have to pay for future equipment and future capital needs. There are some balances there that have paid for projects in advance of when the funding is coming in, so be aware of those. And then you also have that project construction fund that has the 2021 A bond in it that was issued right at the end of the year, so not a lot of that work was done. So almost all of those bond proceeds are, as of 12/31, are still sitting there waiting to be used. And then on the next slide, we can see your internal service funds. And so a lot of your basic operations flow through these internal service funds. And so I just want to show you a quick overview of what those cash balances look like. So you have a lot of funds saved up for compensated absences. So those are for future sick and vacation payouts. So that's a really big balance and very important to be aware of as you have retirements coming up in the future. And then on the next slide, we start getting into the utility funds. So I know with the utility funds, you guys have done some rate changes over the last couple of years. And so for this one, it really illustrates the impact of those rate changes on your operating receipts and your cash balances. So the goal here is to save up funds for capital, right? So you want to save up enough money so that you can save on interest in the future and pay for those capital costs. So you can see how those operating receipts have been able to really increase your cash balance and allow you to do more things with those utility funds. So the water fund is looking very healthy, and then on the next slide is the sewer fund. And again, there, that cash balance is very healthy, and you're able to really pay for some of those capital costs without issuing any debt, which is great. And then next is the stormwater fund, and so this one, again, here you've been able to increase those capital needs. Stormwater repairs are very expensive, and usually you do not issue bonds for those. So this is a very healthy cash balance, allowing you to save up those reserves. And then the recycling fund, this one has very basic operations, not a lot of capital flows through here, so this is right what you would expect it to look like, just enough operating cash to support your activities on an annual basis. So no concerns here. This looks like a very healthy recycling fund. And then for the cable fund, this one is really being drawn down to pay for some other costs, and so just be aware of this one's cash position. And here's an overview of your cash and investment by type. So we've talked about a lot of different funds that the city has right now, and it's just important to realize that you have one or two bank accounts and investment accounts with a lot of cash in them, but all of that cash is really spread out over a lot of different areas and paying for a lot of different types of resources that may be restricted in nature. And then the next chart is an overview of kind of your restricted balances and what you can see is assigned for capital. So really your unrestricted cash balance is very small compared to the rest of the cash that the city has. Not uncommon, this is a very common position for cities to be in and really setting you up for success, but important for you to realize that not all of your cash is available. And then I have a couple of ratios that I would like to show you, and I'm not going to go into these in a lot of detail, but I'm just going to give you an overview of how these are arrived at, and you can kind of look to see where you are compared to other cities. So what we've done is we've taken information from the Office of the State Auditor for all the cities in the state and broken it up into two different peer groups. So we have Class 4 cities, which is cities with a population of 2,500 to 10,000, and then we have cities in Hennepin County. And so we've averaged out that information so we can compare you guys to where you are in different areas. And so here you can see your tax rate, and then also your taxes per capita. And I would say that all of these are very different. Each community is unique and they're different demographics. And so when you're looking at this, just keep that in mind. You don't have to be one-to-one with these peer groups, right? Everyone's going to be a little bit different. And then next, I believe we have some debt information. So here's your debt per capita. And there was a big jump up in 2021 because of that bond that was issued right at the end of the year. And then here's a look at your current spending. Current would mean your operating costs and then also capital expenditures. And so you can see how those numbers compare to other cities in the area. And then for the water fund, it's helpful to look to see how much do we have coming in our operating revenues to pay for our operating costs. I'm sorry, to pay for your debt payments. And you want that percentage to be higher the better. The higher that percentage is, that means the more cash you have to pay for debt and then other things. And so this is a really good look, and you can see that you have plenty of cash on hand to make your debt payments. And then here's our contact information. We would love to hear from you about any questions that you might have. And if you have any questions right now, I would love to go over those.
Any questions? Do you have any questions? Looks good. We're nice and caught up on our audits, which is nice. So,
Yes.
any questions? All right, well, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too. All right, well, thanks for that. And that'll bring us to Ron, our finance report. Your monthly,
Yes, we do have a slide. Hold on. Pull it up. We have it in Excel today because I was creating this very late in the day. I was on vacation last week, so. But it is a good slide. We're at 66.5% of budget. We're only 58% of the way through the year, so stayed ahead of budget. If you remember right, June was the first time we were ahead of budget, we're still ahead of budget. You can see down on the bottom that July revenues actually exceeded it last year, so that's a good sign, and we're looking to be good on year-to-date revenues related to building permits, and that is probably the biggest fluctuating revenue we have. Taxes, we pass the tax levy, we know we'll collect 98 to 99% of them. Police contract revenue, we know what the contract is, we know what we'll collect, but building permit revenues are dependent on what's going on in the economy and in the community for building. And I was a little afraid, as you know, earlier this year, but the last 2 months have made me feel much better.
That's why we track it every month too, which is important from a budgeting standpoint.
And that's about all I have for the finance report. We did just implement one more efficiency in the finance department. For a couple of years, or actually earlier this year, we implemented check 21 on our utility accounts. So our utility accounts, you scan the check in, it was being applied to the customer's account, and the money was in the bank, which took about 2 steps out of the process, and meant we didn't have to run to the bank, every other day. Now, working with our bank, we have check 21 just for the regular checks that come in, because most of our payments up front are either with credit card or check. Now we are planning on going to the bank with cash deposits, maybe every Friday, as long as we have $100 or $200. I have to figure out what the magic number is, but certainly on the last day of the month, so we might, cut going to the bank down from, at certain times of the year, 4 or 5 times in a week, to going to the bank 4 or 5 times a month. So that should make us more efficient, keep the accountant doing accounting stuff instead of spending an hour on that trip to the bank and back. So just wanted to share that with the council, and other than that, that's all I have.
Questions for All right, well, that'll bring us to our Public Works report. DJ.
Good evening. Mr. Mayor, Council. Public Works has been very busy. We have started our annual sewer cleaning in District 4, which is the Crystal Bay, Bracket Point area. We started that today. We should be finished in the next couple of weeks. Paving project, annual paving project is well on its way. We should be completed with phase 3 this week, and then the last 2 roads to get done would be West Lake Street and then Dixon over in off of Long Orchard. So we're currently 1 staff member short from a resignation from about 1.5 to 2 months ago. We're looking at trying to replace that one as soon as we can. And beyond that, we're getting ready for winter already. So
Comes quick.
very quick. So other than that, that's all I have.
All right, thanks, DJ. All right, well, that'll bring us to our fire department report, which I will throw over to Victoria. We don't have a presentation on the screen, but because we're going to have a item here.
Yeah, no, so, if you guys remember, we sent back over communications along like saying we would love to buy 2, new pieces of equipment, 100%, and, we had some contingencies on it, being that we'd be paying for it 100%. They said, no, thank you to that, and so I think we have to decide, the 3 of us up here tonight, what our response is. After speaking to the chief, I do think, these are needed. I think the truck he's driving is, I want to say 150,000 miles, and it starts sometimes, and, as maintenance goes up, so does costs and years, so I think that's also why we said yes to these. So I don't know where your guys' head is on this, but I still think we should buy them. We've committed to them. I know they're hard to get. This took a little longer, if I recall, and I don't remember the date. One of them we already approved a while ago, and I think we had one like in process, and I think the dealer fell through, so I feel like one of them's kind of a foregone conclusion for sure. So I don't know where the rest of you guys' heads are. I don't know.
But the bigger issue is that the contingency is where that, we're buying it 100%. We want to make sure that Long Lake has no claim to our equipment. And
Yep.
that we own it, and they didn't want to accept that. And so I know, Matt, you had other thoughts on that too.
No, that was it. They're watching their meeting, their conversation surrounded by a surprise that we've been purchasing other equipment. So 2 other engines, the city has purchased 100%. We maintain insurance on those. Those are ours. We took an additional step because that was approved by them in the past. We were just following their same protocol for what we've done, especially because we are in flux here with the city of Lund Lake. So this, in my opinion, our recommendation to them, clean that up. You know, there's no dispute. These are our vehicles. We are going to loan them to you for free in the meantime. But their response was that they wanted to see us go revert back to the conditions of the contract, which I understood, but at the same time, this has been the status quo for these vehicles. So, I mean, my opinion is, and in my independent research and finding out that with supply chain issues, we're pretty fortunate to be in a position. Adam did send out a letter of intent on the vehicle. I think we maintain our position and purchase these. Hopefully we figure this out with Long Lake. In the meantime, let's not put ourselves, or more importantly, the firefighters in a position where they don't have the equipment they need while the 2 cities jack around with this. We can procure them, get them purchased, get them coming this way. They're on the East Coast, and then we can sort through it as 2 cities on the side. That would be my opinion.
Yeah, I think regardless, I mean, obviously their home should be the fire department, that's what they should be, but from my understanding, if it somehow doesn't work out, we can always utilize them in other avenues, the police department and whatnot, so I think our plan to purchase solely just makes sense. And ironically, their concern was very similar to ours. They wanted to know at the end that they could buy them, right, if we don't work things out. We want to know at the end, we don't have to buy them because we own them, right? So we don't want to put ourselves in that situation. So I do like the idea of just going ahead with the original plan to purchase 100%, because then we're not putting it, you know, what the firefighters need at risk, right? We're supporting their need. We can figure out the details later.
So basically, we'd be making a motion to buy the vehicles in Orono's name, bring them here, and then we can deal with the fire department later if they want to accept the vehicles later on a conversation basis.
Yes.
Yep, I second. Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that passes 3-0. Okay, that brings us to our city attorney report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I don't have an update for tonight.
Okay, that brings us to our mayor council report. Council member Seals.
Not much, except for glad we got some rain this weekend.
Yes.
Definitely my crunchy grounds a little less crunchy, so.
Councilmember Johnson.
Victoria and I did meet again as part of the negotiation team with the members of Long Lake, and so we've Victoria put together a list of the areas that we agree. The Long Lake mayor is on vacation this week, so it's going to push our next meeting back, but we agreed to kind of keep working through this week in confirming the areas that we are in agreement. I think, you know, the number one piece of this whole conversation has been to keep the fire department as a whole entity.
Mhm.
So, you know, we have that agreement that's everyone's first choice. So anyway, we're working through that. We'll have some progress, slight progress during the week, maybe via email exchanges, and then we'll be back on Saturday next week and get in front of them. But I think Victoria and I have both, you know, reiterated to them, you know, given the context of our contract with them, Orono is in a position, we gotta start making some hard decisions here. So, you know, we have so much time that we can spend trying to work a plan with them. That's our first choice. But at the same time, we gotta start moving ahead too.
All right, well, we've got Corn Days coming up on Saturday, so don't forget about that.
Only
My
one.
daughter loves the Mexican corn over there, so, and I know they're gonna be in the parade. I think we got one in the gymnastics and we have one in the ODT, the dance team. They're both gonna be in the parade, so that'll be fun. Had my 40th reunion this last weekend. That was fun seeing people. That's a big number, so.
You're dating yourself.
I know, it's crazy, but it was fun to see all the different people and over the years they haven't changed a lot in the last 10 years, but they've changed a lot in the last 40 years. So it's interesting to see everybody, good to see everybody. I know an article came out about the parks, about a group that's being put together that thinks the Orono Council is doing a terrible job in the parks and giving away a lot of parks or whatever, but I want to tell you that 10 years ago, we had no parks. We had no Parks Commission. We have a great Parks Commission now. They're dedicated individuals, and we've done great things in our parks over the years, between Beaterwood and redoing all the fields, buying the property over at Hackberry, all the parks at Soggy Hill that we've completely reformed, all the stuff in the our parks that were all neglected 100% that we have put in place and are maintaining consistently now, all the expansion at the golf course. So we have done great things, and I look forward to the Parks Commission continuing that down the road. And we probably need to work maybe at getting a little bit more communication out there, which I think we're going to meet later with the city, but putting more of the word up those great things that we're doing out there as well. So with that, I will bring it to public comments, which is 3 minutes per person. It's an opportunity to address the council. The council won't engage in any decision or take action on items presented at this time. You may refer issues to the staff if they need to be for following up. And you should state your name and home address at the podium before speaking, and Ron will start the clock when you're on.
Brad Erickson, 2485 Independence Road, Independence. Before I get started, I want to say thank you to Mr. Prenta and Mr. Crosby, who are not here tonight, interestingly enough. We had a very nice meeting last week. It was about 2¼ hours with Mr. Rocha at his office at the Orono station. I think it was very productive. There were certain admissions made that I found rather interesting. So at the conclusion of that, under Mr. Rocha's tutelage, I guess you could call it, we decided that when Mr. Manson gets back from Alaska, we will draw up a draft resolution for the city to adopt and vote on. So I can articulate, or we can articulate, I think, better in document form, I think, what really the whole picture looks like. And then we can deal with it as it comes. So I've also found this to be incredibly exhausting. It's becoming more and more difficult for me. So I'm glad that we're finally moving the ball down the field, and the experts can come in and do their thing, look at it, and figure out. You can smirk. That's okay. That's fine. I get it. Believe me. So having said that, still have a lot of time. I really appreciate everybody who's been supportive. I can't really think of anybody else I have an axe to grind with besides the sitting mayor right now. And I think anybody who's been paying attention maybe understands what's going on by now. But if there's any questions between now and when that resolution comes through, Mr. Manson will be gone for, I think he said the 19th. He gets back. You may know. It was 16th or 19th. He emailed me, but in any case, when things started happening with meetings and so on and so forth. But in any case, I hope that we can get this thing resolved. I think we need to decide as a city if we're going to endorse this message, and what we're going to do in the future to prevent this from happening again, because it cannot be allowed to happen. This could have been very, very bad, had it come out at the time that it was delivered to me. So it's really fortunate that I didn't get it until April 7th of this year, 2022. So with that, TTFN.
Right. Anybody else who's here for public comments about this meeting?
I sure will. Jay and I are 36 West Point Road, Orono, as you all know so well. And find it quite comical how the public comments keep moving to the end, farther down, and now they're ending the schedule. All that says is something about you, not us, that you're afraid to have them. I just don't get it. Well, I do get it, but I don't. Now, unfortunately, certain things have forced me to go talk to the police in this community and file police reports. And one of them was, it certainly appears a couple of weeks ago when I was here and previously with Mr. Erickson, that Mr. Walsh had brought specific people in to interfere with our public comments. That's called misconduct by a public officer. And I had no choice but to file that police report because this is my time. And from what I understand, Mr. Walsh is doing everything he can to interfere with it. It's interesting, that meeting, because when I was speaking up to say you're not telling people the truth, you were gabbling me, but when the person was heckling me back here, you were just looking the other way. To me, that's just a little further proof of what I'm talking about. There actually happens to be 2 more criminal complaints against Mr. Walsh. One is for criminal bribery, and that's actually being investigated by the Hennepin County Sheriff right now. You can laugh all you want. The facts are facts. You did what you did. The facts are down there, they're actually investigating, and they decided the statute of limitations has not expired at this point. So you are under investigation, Mr. Walsh, by the Hennepin County Sheriff. There's a police report filed against you for misconduct of by a public officer, and that's you for interfering with rights. But unfortunately, I don't know if any of you heard, when I was at the Park Commission last time, I called out the illegal sale of a fire lane to a sitting planning commissioner. And you can all watch a video, I put a video out last night that really explained it and showed state statutes and League of Minnesota City advisory comments that say you just can't do what you did. And you can play words all you want. What I do know is on the resolution, it specifically said $100,000 and it specifically said that property. Simply because you try to insert words like unsolicited donation is BS. Now, unfortunately, I had to file a complaint against everybody I felt was involved. That included you, Mr. Walsh. That included you, Ms. Seals, even though you were never here. You were mysteriously absent for every vote. This did not go through the public process. Mr. Johnson, I did not include you because you had the wherewithal to vote against it, say it's not in public interest. I included the other 2 council members, Pritchett and Crosby. I had to include the law firm because these people are supposed to be telling you you can't do it. And then I included Mr. Edwards, who's not here tonight, because he's the city administrator, and this happened under his watch.
All right, thank you.
You're look, I can do this too, okay? I can do this too. You know what? You committed criminal activity. You are being investigated.
Sit down.
And you will find out that justice does prevail.
Sit down.
Good job. Next. Who's taking your name?
Eddie Rice, 2550 County Road 6, Orono. I'll be brief, about 30 seconds. The park system, I didn't know you were getting any blowback from the park system. I'm not part of it all, but as some of you know, I'm at the off-leash park almost daily when I can. It's fantastic. There are people coming from the entire metro to visit this park, pay their fees, and it's a fantastic place to go. So I applaud the council. I don't want to take the park.
Learning part.
Right, and that was the last thing of the family that donated, was that it?
It was donated land originally, yeah.
Right, a fantastic park. I didn't know you were getting feed from the outside, but I can tell you that there's a lot of Orono residents there that live from all over the entire West Metro that visit that park and are packed in there on a daily basis. So thank you. I applaud you for that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Is anybody else here for public comment? Steve,
I got something to say here. Ben Goodwin, 560 Kokish Farm Road. Sorry everybody isn't here today, but I just wanted to say 5 of you, staff and the mayor, I think you guys are doing a great job. It's a thankless job that all of you have agreed to do on a every other week basis. I've never seen this town in a better condition in all my years living both in Long Lake and here. The budget that we just saw, the strength of the city's finances look incredibly strong. I think even part of your work. The parks, yeah, I don't know what this park issue is. The parks are in immaculate shape. What the city did with Big Island to me is a fantastic thing that often goes unnoticed by most people. It's a wonderful amenity that's been brought to a new height of use, whereas before it was basically a garbage dump. And I want to say thank you to all three for what you do. And it's unfortunate that you guys have to come to work, your second job, and be harassed the way you are, which is practically what it is. It's harassment on a few people. I'm sorry you have to go through that. And I know the majority of us disagree with that. We like how our city's run. And what I tell people when they comment about who these people are, because we all say the same thing. If they don't like it, they can run. And maybe they'll get elected, maybe they won't. I guess that they won't. But you guys are doing a great job. Stick to your guns, and we're pleased with everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else here for public comment today? Seeing none, I will close public comment and move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned. Thank you.
Yes, she can watch live today. Yeah, I'll email her in the morning too, but yes, very exciting. I'm excited to have a full department. Yeah, I did. Yep, she came in, we got to meet and talk about her background and everything. She's from out of state, so she had just moved here and she's had a baby and everything, and then her husband was her kitchen. That's where I work. Oh, no, really? Yeah. So,
Oh my gosh. John? Oh my God.
well, we don't know our husband.
We weren't interviewing.
You don't, yeah,
I'm
you
gonna
don't
look him
even
up.
know.
I think he actually works, yeah. He might.
So hopefully they'll be here for a while.
I hope so. You know, I'm sure she wants to get the feel of Minnesota.
Help the sound catch up.
Being that she hasn't had a job yet.
Once a year, right? Yeah, one of them. I feel like,
Yeah, they have to name it back.
I feel like she said that.
I think they both are.
Yeah.
I know, I'm excited to get started. I'm excited to full department. So it's been busy trying to balance all, everything, the calls and the emails. Yeah. We're staying on top of it. We're trying. We're trying. Yeah, building permits are crazy. For, compared to what we've done in the past. It's like people discovered the online system. I think, like, if I leave
Yep. And I'm like, I wonder who my grandma always got me into this as kids when I joked about Uncle Dolph.
Here, I guess.
Trouble kid. And being German Jewish, it's even worse yet.